are using it for betting. And these students, we have evidence. Some parents have even sent us audios where students have received the fees but have refused to pay.
And in business, we have details on sectors that pushed economic growth for last year to 5.4%.
And in sports, referee Kennedy Paddy has been suspended for the rest of the season after he was declared to have erred in the penalty decision in the super clash between Asante Kotoko and Hartlepool.
We have that and more in tonight's edition of Newsnight. Do well to join us with your thoughts and your comments is via WhatsApp 05511119997. And starting tomorrow, Thursday, 21st of April, members of the Civil and Local Government Staff Association of Ghana, CLOCSAG, will stay away from work in protest of government's failure to pay them allowances in exchange for their neutrality.
In fact, let's emphasize, this is allowances paid them to remain politically neutral, which is called the Neutrality Allowance. CLOCSAG says the Neutrality Allowance forms part of a memorandum of understanding entered into with the government on January 20, 2022. And we have a copy of the release that they put out today on this matter, announcing an indefinite strike from tomorrow, which will cripple the civil service indeed. Emefa, what is it that they say in this release?
So this is a communication to their regional secretaries informing them about this decision by the National Executive Council. So they give a background as to why this payment or how they reached this memorandum of understanding with government, which was supposed to start payment on the 20th of January 2022. So it also goes on that the payment of the neutrality allowance has not been effected as agreed, in spite of official reminders and follow-ups to the Ministry of Finance and Economic Planning. So as a result, the NEC therefore decided that CLOCSAG should embark on an industrial action to press home its demand for the implementation of this particular MOU entered into with government. So the notice has duly been served to the National Labour Commission, we are told. That's according to that communication. The Civil Service Council, the Local Government Service Council, with copies to the Senior Presidential Advisor, the Minister for National Security, Minister for Labour, their overseeing ministry, that the association will proceed on the strike starting from 21st of April 2022. We also know that already some moves have been made by the various institutions, including NLC, the Ministry of Employment and Labour Relations, to block this intended action by CLOCSAG. Well, we've been also interacting with the labour consultant on this because since we heard about this neutrality allowance, there have been concerns as to why government will enter into this MOU with these workers to pay them neutrality allowance or pay them allowances for them to remain politically neutral. Because we know that the Constitution, binds them not to engage in any political activity once they enter into the civil service. So it's surprising that this neutrality allowance is being paid them. But we hear from the National Labour Commission, and then also we hear from Imani. You know, they've been working in this area for some time now. But let's get into this. Let's speak to, we've been speaking to the Labour consultant, Austin Game, on government's decision to pay this neutrality allowance. He spoke to my colleague, Kujo.
Neutrality, as far as I am concerned, as a teacher of labor relations and conflict resolution, neutrality is about use of language. It's about proper and effective use of language in a manner that helps parties to resolve their differences. So maybe they are talking about impartiality in the true sense that, it denotes what it's supposed to be. But they are using neutrality because that is what everybody else have been using. So granting that that is what they want to do is entirely in the domain of the employer to design a system that helps. My assumption is that the civil service is expected to be apolitical in the sense that they provide services to all manner of people. That is why they are in the civil service and are being paid. And therefore, I am not too sure whether they are talking about the cause of why should there be any such thing It should have been embedded in the load of work they do, and therefore they are rewarded through whether the base pay or variable pay, as the case may be. And so I am not too sure what went into this kind of handsome package they wanted to give them. That today is becoming of concern. But if you want to ask me about, so what is the way forward, I would have loved to say that it's for the employer almost immediately to call a meeting, even if it's tonight, even if it's midnight, let them call a meeting. And I know the capacity of the ministry and the minister and his deputy in particular of Ministry of Employment and Labor Relations, but they can engage them to enable them have a common solution, because the civil service is a pivotal entity that supports government business.
So that's a labor consultant, Austin Game, there, speaking to us on this particular intended action.
Clocksack, they've been meeting today with the government, have they not?
Yes.
As part of efforts to avert this nationwide strike tomorrow, considering that Clocksack is such a powerful group, possibly crippling the entire civil service if they call a strike. You can understand why the entire government machinery is moved in now to try and avert this possible crisis tomorrow. Let's speak now to
the Executive Secretary of the National Labour Commission, Mr. Ofosu Asamoah. We are grateful for your time here on Newsnight, sir. So let's first find out from you if Clocksack have your blessing for this intended action tomorrow. Hello, Mr. Asamoah.
Yes.
Okay, so I was asking if Clocksack has your blessing for this intended action tomorrow.
No, Clocksack hasn't got the blessings or consent of the commission to engage in the strike. They gave notice of this strike a week ago. So we invited Clocksack, we invited the Ministry of Finance, Ministry of Employment and Labor Relations, as well as the Fair Wages and Salaries Commission, all appearing before the Labor Commission to discuss the issue. We got into it, and they were asked to go and engage with the Ministry of Finance. Today, since morning, they were engaging till around 1 o'clock when they broke off, and then reconvened at 3 o'clock. Representing the Ministry of Finance was Dr. John Kuma, the Minister of State and the Ministry, the Chief Director, another personnel from the Ministry of Finance. And then the Ministry of Employment, the Minister was there himself, with his deputy and all others. So when I saw notice of this strike doing the rounds of social media, I immediately called the executive Clocksack, and they said they have not ordered that because the meeting was going on for the settlement of the issues for which they wanted to go on strike. So that it wasn't coming from the executives, but it was some members of Clocksack who had resorted to spreading that. So it is not true that the NEC has given the mandate for the strike tomorrow. No.
But this is a communication signed by Isaac Bampuado, the Executive Secretary of Clocksack himself.
Today?
Today.
What is the date?
This is what we have. It's today, Mr. Ofosu Asamoah.
Today?
Mm-hmm.
I have not seen that. Okay. Because I spoke to him in the afternoon.
So you were in this meeting with him and he denies
I was not
knowledge?
In the meeting.
Okay.
Today we are holding different meetings. The commission is in session today. We are dealing with the census issue among 18 other issues. And they were engaging at the Ministry of Labor. We were meeting at the commission here. Mm-hmm. So when I heard the news, I immediately called him. That I know that per the directive of the commission, engagement was supposed to be going on with them and the Ministry of Finance, which I am aware it is going on as I am talking to him. So where from this flyers making the rounds that the strike is being tomorrow? And he himself said, no, he has not sent any flyers, but some of the members. So it's become a bit confusing and more surprising if you are saying that we have issued a letter to that effect, because we haven't seen it as a commission.
Well,
as I'll tell you now, I am in the commission now. We are still having session.
So, Mr. Asamoah, let me read to you the contents of this. This is all regional secretaries. It says it was noted that payment of the neutrality allowance has not been effected as agreed in spite of the official reminders and follow-ups to the Ministry of Finance and Economic Planning. The National Executive Council therefore decided that Clocksack should embark on an industrial action to press home its demand for the implementation of the MOU. Now, it goes on to state when this will happen. The notice has therefore been served on NLC. This is as far back as the 5th April 2022.
Yes.
That the association
So
will
this letter
proceed.
I am aware of.
That
why
association will proceed
I
on a
asked of
strike.
the date.
Yes, but the
That is
association
why
will
I asked of
proceed.
the date. It's dated 5th April.
Yes, but the
Is that right?
strike was called for tomorrow.
Yes, that was why I'm saying that they gave us notice of this letter, right? And based upon this notice, we summoned the meeting to make sure that we are able to make enough intervention and the strike doesn't come on. And it includes the engagement of the Ministry of Finance, who are supposed to release money for the payment of the neutrality allowance, which has delayed, and for that matter is calling for this strike. And today, as I talked to you, that after morning till 3 p.m., they were locked in a meeting. And once meeting was going on, they couldn't have approved of a strike. That is why I asked, what is the date of the letter you are referring to? So this letter has come, and an intervention has been made by the National Labour Commission to suspend that strike action, and rather have the engagement to make sure that the money is paid. And that is what is going on.
So
this letter is of no value now.
So you have the assurance that tomorrow's strike will not come off, as earlier communicated to you on the 5th.
Yes, as communicated to me just this afternoon by Bampo, the General Secretary. I spoke to him because I saw notice of this flyers going around. So I called him that this is a directive from the Commission that the engagement should go on to find a solution to the payment in order to halt the strike. So what are we seeing? I said they have not mandated anybody to do that.
Let me ask you for some clarity. What is the neutrality allowance exactly?
Well, the neutrality allowance is based on the fact that the members of the civil service and local government service are not to engage in active politics, and that to stay away from active politics or political, they are not allowed to. They will be compensated with some form of allowance. And this is what I understand it to be.
And how much did the government agree to pay them? What was the compensation?
I am not too sure. I think I may have to refer. But it's something around, I think, 19% of the basic also. I'm not too sure.
So this is a percentage of their basic salary?
Yes.
Okay, as a compensation for staying away from active politics?
Yes, that is what I understand it to be, as was presented by Mr. Bampo. You haven't seen a copy of it, is that right?
I mean, I haven't seen a copy of the MOU that specifies the compensation package.
Let me just quickly read it to you. I have it here. Neutrality allowance. Yeah. So please refer to our letter dated on 2000. We will be grateful if address to come the next. Neutrality allowance. So yes, that is just to get them to stay off politics.
If we could, does it clarify how much, what percentage? Is it 19% or more or less? Since you have the document with you.
Yes, okay. It was signed on the 19th of January between the Ministry of Employment, the minister signing on behalf of government, and then William Kojo Kakari, the Deputy Executive Secretary, does it, Honorable Yaosaf Mapu, Senior Presidential Advisor to that neutrality allowance shall be paid to staff of civil service and local government services at the rate of 20% of monthly basic salary effective 1st January 2022. Payment of this allowance will reflect in the pay packets of workers from end of February. 2, that the government has received a proposed new salary structure developed by CLOSAG as part of the conditions of service for the staff of the civil and local government services. 3, that both parties will work together to finalize the new salary structure by 31st August 2022. 4, that the effective date for the implementation of the new salary structure shall be 1st January 2023. On the basis of the above, CLOSAG will call off the nationwide strike with immediate effect. So this is a memorandum of understanding on the payment of neutrality allowance and the salary structure for staff of civil service and local government services, signed on the 19th of January. Yeah.
Just curious, because looking at the Constitution, Article 94.3, for instance, mandates members of the civil service to stay neutral already. Why then do we enter into an MOU to pay them for their neutrality?
In fact, I was not a party to the negotiation. So it is if you want the reason, you can, is the senior presidential advisor, the Minister of Labor and the Fair Wages and Salaries. They did the negotiation and the subsequent signing. But we, Commissioner, the National Labour Commission, we are not party to it.
Well, we are grateful. We'll leave it here. That's the Executive Secretary of the National Labour Commission, Ofuswa Samwa. You've been working the maths.
Yeah, I mean, so 20% of their basic salary is, so if you earn, say, 1,500 CDs a month, I mean, let's start with that from that level. That's 300 CDs. On top of that, you get so that's significant.
So
I mean,
1,008. That's aside
yes,
other allowances.
That's aside other allowances. So your basic pay is 1,500. You get 20% of that is
for you to stay neutral.
Just politically neutral. If you earn 2,000 CDs, you're taking 400 CD in addition to that. You can understand why they would call it an indefinite strike, because that's a very significant amount of money indeed. Let's bring in the founding president of Imani Africa. That's Franklin Kujo, who has been patient with us as we got some clarity on this neutrality allowance. Mr. Kujo, I'm grateful for your time and apologies for holding you whilst we try and get this clarity about this neutrality allowance. Now we know it's 20% of the basic salary. It's given to them to compensate them for staying politically neutral. What do you make of this policy?
It's a fraudulent arrangement. You know the reason why I call it fraud. You know, the whole idea behind civil service work or public service work is rooted in the principle of neutrality, anonymity, and permanence. These are the three cardinal principles that we know that undergird the work of civil service. So if you got into the civil service, these things are read, these principles are actually read to you. If you understand that, you have to observe these principles. This is why when civil servants advise ministers, they are not held responsible for the political fallout. And this is the reason why they also need to be neutral. And we know that their job is permanent. They can't be removed on the demise of a government. So to pick these three elements apart and negotiate on each of them as a basis for remuneration is fraudulent at best. I do not understand how this arrangement could have been entered into. I don't know how far back it dates, but we may just be opening a can of worms when it comes to the remuneration of public servants and civil servants in this country. I may probably want to understand why this is happening, even though it's crude. You know, when this whole salary restructuring started, it was just based on the faulty premise, the single spine thing, that if you have a degree, let me be a bit careful here, but I mean, if I have a degree and all I do is watering flowers at the back and garden, and you have a degree and you break your back looking at numbers, making permutations, and which will be based, the basis of which some big decisions will be taken, we cannot be earning the same salary. So the single spine system was based on a fraudulent economic principle that I have a degree, irrespective of which area, and you have another degree, but you do a lot of hard work and hard thinking, you should be paid the same. The fact that I dig holes, and the fact that I hold a degree, and the fact that you have an accounting degree, we should be paid the same. Then we started going into uncharted warfare. Let's now introduce a risk premium. You remember? Now that had fallen apart, and because of that, I'm just saying this could be the plausible reason why we want to pick apart the cardinal principles that hold a civil servant down to his work and negotiate on that basis. It's wrong.
So we heard from the NLC boss read the MOU that was supposed to, the payments should have started in January. I've heard others argue that the reason for this is you want to attract the best brains and into the civil service, and people who otherwise would have gone into partisan active politics because of a 20% allowance of their basic pay. They may be attracted to this. What do you make of this?
Well, the fact of the matter is that if we want to go on that path, and what it means is that every person who works within the public arena will come up with a litany of things. As I've heard, I think it was Captain Smart who suggested that ministers even receive height allowance for visiting buildings, right? We can go into uncharted waters. The fact of the matter really is that there are three principles which I highlighted earlier. This I remember learning in my sixth form government lessons, by the way, that as a civil servant, you are guided by three principles for which your remuneration and your terms of reference, whatever grade you are on, will be based. So to pick each of these principles and negotiate is like that famous story of the student who went telling the father that geography is actually divided into three, geography, and collected money for each of the three items. I'm just suggesting to you it is wrong. I don't know what motivated anybody to sit with anybody.
So should it be scrapped then, or should
definitely should be scrapped?
Okay,
it should be scrapped.
And that's Franklin Kujo there with Imani Africa. Thank you very much for this. You have an update on the ongoing negotiations.
Yeah, the negotiations still underway. We're told it will continue tomorrow, and it's very likely that we may not see that industrial action being embarked upon by Clocksag tomorrow. Government is still negotiating with them today and tomorrow. Negotiations still underway for them. We've been finding out why they have to be paid for their neutrality when indeed they are bound by the constitution not to engage in partisan politics. But we're told that that nomenclature is being worked out. They're still talking about it. It's a subject of negotiation.
Yeah, but we have to point it out. Government had already agreed and signed an agreement to pay them 20% of their basic salary for remaining politically neutral. And this conversation, this meeting that is happening is a matter of arrears that they are owed.
Yeah,
pay us, that's what the conversation is. I want to hear your thoughts on this. 055-1111-997. What do you make of government's decision to agree to pay compensation to civil servants for remaining politically neutral? Government has agreed to pay. In fact, government agreed and must be paying them now 20% of their basic. They've signed an MOU, and in fact, they had called the strike that would have begun tomorrow, but that had now been called off as a way.
Called off. We haven't heard from Clocksag.
That's true.
Negotiations still underway, ongoing as we speak.
Well, what's your take on that? Do you? It's not about whether you agree or not, because government already agreed to pay them. But what do you make of that?
I've heard some of my colleagues already say that maybe journalists should start being paid.
That if anybody needs neutrality allowance, journalists do. 055-1111-997. Let's talking about politics. Two individuals who can be politically neutral because they will be fighting it off to represent a political party. Vice President Dr. Mahru Baumia and the Trade Minister Alan Chamanting. We now know from a poll that the vice president has now been overtaken by the trade minister Alan Chamanting as the voter's choice for the MPP's flag bearership in the latest polling data from Global Info Analytics. A research with sample voters in 34 constituencies puts the trade minister in the lead with 35%, ahead of Dr. Baumia's 28%. In January this year, when the first poll was conducted, the vice president led with almost 40%, as against the trade minister's 33%. So in 4 months, the vice president, Dr. Mahmoud Baumia's lead has been cut by 6.5%. Why is that? Has that got to do with the recent economic challenges that some of you already blame the vice president for? Kweku Asante is joining us with details of this. Kweku.
So the meat is in the regional figures. You look at the January polling data and look at Ashanti region in particular, where the vice president led with 58% as against the trade minister's 16%. You look at the data now, and the trade minister has overtaken the vice president in those details. But the specific numbers, like you mentioned, 39.7% for Vice President Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, who was leading the pack at the time, including a lot of other people who were mentioned. His lead has now been cut to 33.2%. And Alan Kojo Chematin is now leading with 35.5%, as against the 28.14% he had in 2012. And so the regional breakdown, the Greater Accra region, the Vice President leads with 31%, whilst the Vice President, the Trade Minister, has 30%. It goes on and on and on. So that is the data from the specific regions as against what has now come from the 2022 January polling data that we had and what is now trending.
The researchers also put both Dr. Bawumia and Alan Chamanting against NDC's John Mahama. What is the outcome of that?
First, Dr. Bawumia, you see that in January 2022, Dr. Bawumia was leading John Mahama at 38%, while John Mahama actually led at the time. He had 43%, while Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia had 38%. Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia's rating has now dropped from 38% to 30%, while that of former President Mahama has climbed to 53%. That is for Dr. Bawumia against John Mahama. If you do the comparison between Alan Chematin and John Mahama, you see that Alan Chematin had 38% against John Mahama's 37%. But now, Alan Chematin has appreciated a bit to 42%, but he has not been able to catch up with former President Mahama, who has also gotten to 50%. And so this data sort of sits in with the data that EIU just published, with the former president standing in such pole position to be able to win 2024 if he decides to contest.
Okay, so this seems to be an affirmation of the EIU's survey that the John Mahama, the NDC appears to be in the lead, but John Mahama needs to, they need some enhancement of his own strength there to extend that lead and solidify it. Just a word on the methodology for this. A sample size of 5,232 people were polled, with the confidence level of 99%. And you have this drawn from 34 constituencies, and they use the EC's polling data to put this together.
Okay, so let's bring in the Executive Director of Global Info Analytics. They actually conducted this research. Musa Dankwa, we are grateful for your time. So just like Evans said, Mr. Musa, I noticed that you're using the EC's, data as against using the party, which is the NPP's data, because we don't have delegates just yet. But explain to us why that methodology.
Okay, Jifa, thank you very much for hosting me on this program. First and foremost, we were talking to general voters and not delegates. So if you look at the questions that we asked voters, we asked them that if you were a delegate, so we presume that they want to put themselves in the shoes of delegates. But then the methodology was quite simple. We actually interviewed voters in 68 constituencies. The January survey, we did 34 constituencies. This time around, we added fresh 34 randomly selected. And then we selected 5,332 samples. And this sample size was determined by the overall population of the voters in the constituencies that we sampled, so that we can assess rightfully the margin of error and then the confidence interval. So that is the approach we adopted for this. Why EC? We were only interviewing people who are on the register as voters or who have potential to be on the register if it is opened. So if you see the age group that we interviewed, it included people who are 16 years to 18 years. Because we know that by the time election is up, they will have the chance to register and vote. So that is the methodology we use for this polling.
So I noticed that in 4 months, because we had one in January where Dr. Mahmoud Baumia was in the lead, and in 4 months his lead has been cut by 6.5%. He's been overtaken by the Trades Minister, Alan Tremantin. What really did the voters say accounted for this?
Sadly, we didn't ask them the reasons for them making those choices that they made. That would be for a different work. But if you look at the happenings in the country generally, and myself in particular, I made a comment some time back that I think the silence of the vice president could have an impact on his polling numbers. And I think I have been proven right, because off the record, what we've been hearing from the voters in the field was to do with the economic issues and his silence on those issues. And also the e-levy that, they have not heard from him again. But we couldn't put this in the report because it wasn't subject of the poll. At the right time, we will go back and do those kind of surveys. But we can sense why they are behaving like that.
And I suppose we're expecting another one just before the delegates. But putting both of them together, you put Dr. Baumia, Alan Tremantin together as against the NDC's former president, John Dramani Mahama. It looks like he still leads as against both of them. Let's talk about the pattern for that particular survey as well.
No, okay. Now, if you look at the January poll, it was quite close between Alan and John Mahama, and slightly higher than that of Baumia. Now, there are certain dynamics that are accounting for this change. One, I've made a comment that this election, ethnicity will play a key role, as well as religion. Now, we have seen that in the numbers, in the sense that when you put Dr. Baumia against John Mahama, the Akan votes kind of suppressed. You have a lot of people moving towards I will not vote or someone else when it is Alan against Mahama. And when you look at the demographic of these voters, they are mostly MPP supporters. Now, if you throw in Alan, then you have the Akan votes going up significantly. And that is the reason why Alan is closing the gap between him and John Mahama. Then, there is this also a shift in the north. Once Alan is on the ticket, we've seen some dynamics within certain groups in the northern region. They suddenly shift towards Mahama instead of sticking to the MPP candidate. So they are rather voting individuals rather than parties when it comes to those ways. But to see why John Mahama is leading the two of them, you have to go back and look at who voters trust on the top economic issues. Top issues to voters: economy, jobs, infrastructure, and education. On all these key things that matter to voters, John Mahama is leading significantly. Both Mahmoud Baumia and Alan Tremantin.
And thank you very much. That is the Executive Director of the Global Info Analytics, Musa Dankwa there. Let's quickly also bring in Poster Ben F. Singh, who of course has been watching this as it unfolds towards the final lap, where the two gentlemen possibly will emerge, as many have said, front runners in this race to lead the MPP into the 2024 elections. Mr. Epson, so does this poll result surprise you, that if you look at where we stand today, Alan appears to have a slight edge over Baumia in the race to lead the MPP?
Well, Evans, I'm just completing the second phase. So, like I told you, I'm doing my seventh book on Ghana elections. We did some work before the elections of the polling station. We've done one after elections, we are rounding up the second phase of our research. It will be in the book to come out end of June. I can tell you that of the two main candidates, without going into details, with Dr. Apawu as the flag bearer, NDC we have difficulty in winning.
I guess it also goes to suggest then that if that is the case, then if you put Alan, the NDC may have a slight advantage. Does that follow?
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
What about a quick comment on also if we put the two front runners together in the same race with John Mahama? John Mahama comes up slightly on top with the two. Your comment on that? Sorry, Mr. FC?
Yeah, Ivan. Yes.
I'm saying. Well, what about a quick comment on if we put those two front runners together with JM? JM appears to have a slight advantage. Your comment on that?
Oh, I think that JM has a bit of a problem, and until we finish, let me give you an example. One of the reasons that I'm sure EIU said that NDC may have to go with the flag bearer was the huge gap between the NDC and the MPP in the presidential race. Mama lost by as much as 540,000, and his party took 30 of the 32. They lost 32 seats. They took 30 back. So if I'm sure with NDC, if elections were being held this month, April 2022, I'm sure Mahama will win. A year's time from now, I'm not sure about that. But if elections were going to be held in December this year, and you hold a flag bearership race in NDC, Mama will win. Unfortunately, if he does not change his running mate, he will hit the wall.
Interesting perspectives there always, Ben F. Singh, a post-election watcher. So what does the MPP itself make of all this on the back of the EIU report? Another poll is suggesting that John Mahama, regardless of who you put up from the NPP in terms of the front runners, seem to have the slight edge. The Deputy General Secretary is Obri Boahen, joins us on the telephone line right now. Mr. Obri Boahen, your quick thoughts on this latest poll, which seem to affirm the EIU suggestion the other time that John Mahama appears to have an advantage.
Oh, well, you are discussing matters in relation to the NDC. I am in the MPP. So why should I be bothered about who leads the MPP?
I'm talking about the national race. Those two polls. I mean, EIU is not a poll, but its report suggests John Mahama has an advantage over. I mean, overall the NPP, and then you have this latest poll that suggests that if you put Alan Chamanting and Dr. Bawumia together in the same race with John Mahama still has a slight advantage.
No, I beg to differ. The truth of the matter is that, like the EIU herself predicted, that it's possible for the NDC to win, provided they will change President Mahama. Some of us are not worried at all. Some of us also are not bothered at all. You must concentrate the fate and the fortunes of the MPP. And let me assure the listeners that whoever emerges as the flag bearer of the MPP, we are going to break the age. We are going to break the chance. Irrespective of the fact that, or notwithstanding the fact that President Mahama emerges the flag bearer, or therefore emerges as the flag bearer of the NDC.
You talk about breaking the eight. This latest Global Analytics poll also did a sample of national voters on the two front runners in your party, Alan Chamanting and Dr. Baumia. And the polling suggests that Alan Chamanting appears to have a slight edge among national voters in a race if you put both of them up for the national elections. What's your comment on that?
I wish you don't even give me the opportunity to comment on this one, because it's a notorious fact and it's well known that I've been shouting from the rooftop in support of somebody. So I think that it will not be fair to me as an individual
You
or
mean
for my party.
if you shouted on rooftops, then it's a notorious fact, as you've stated, which will be Dr. Baumia, correct?
Oh, certainly the time has not come for us to launch our campaign. So the MPP, there's a caveat. The caveat is that leadership of the party, we should not be seen campaigning for a single individual. So,
Yeah, I'm just borrowing from your phrase that it's a notorious fact. Is it a notorious fact that you are in the camp of Dr. Baumia?
I'm a notorious fact that I've been shouting at the rooftop that I am in the camp of somebody. And I don't want to break the caveat. The caveat is that once you're a leading member of the party, you don't need to be seen campaigning openly for a particular candidate. But whichever way you take it, whether you have President flag bearer Baumia or flag bearer Alan Martin, we belong to the same tradition. And the bottom line is that we will break the age.
Thank you, sir. That's Obri Bahin speaking to us about his rooftop notorious shouts. Let's bring your thoughts in now very quickly before we hear from George. And the question we've been asking you, as we learned today, that government is supposed to be paying, because they've agreed to do so, civil servants what they call neutrality allowance, an allowance for the civil servants to remain politically neutral, 20% of their basic salary. What are people saying on this?
So this one from Stephen Yanadenta says this neutrality allowance is ludicrous, to say the least. It must be scrapped immediately. Kweku Teman says, I thought the Greek minister boasts of abundance of food. Call him to explain why the trainees can be fed. So that's on top story. Yeah. And Mr. Kwating is suggesting that prospective GES employees who completed UCC, UEW, etc. are not posted to urban areas only. Some also a question that was raised earlier. So the government will act when there's agitation. This is simply incompetence. Okay, so that's AU Farouk Tamale North on that. And Efo Afake Godo from Mafitoba in Volta region says, see, the man is denying of clock sex strike. Meanwhile, very soon they will run to court seeking for an injunction to stop them from striking. Okay, Pa Solo Sunyain says, please, I think you also deserve an allowance for being politically neutral and thinking outside the box every time. God bless you. And Godson in Huawei says, this allowance is going to scatter the single spine. It doesn't make sense at all. He says, Nanekuya Boating Ablikuma Central says, as for this agreement, it's a sham. Who told you that giving the civil servants allowances will make them stay politically neutral? No matter what, if you are politically tinted, regardless of where you work, you will do it. The only difference is that it will be undertone. So that's what he's saying. And then Henry Nkaswa says, political neutrality allowance. This MPP government, fraud here, fraud there, fraud everywhere, he says. And Ni Tojo from Tema Newtown says, too many financial wastage in the system. What at all is neutrality allowance? Some more, maybe we take a few ones just so we go for business. Chris in Newtown says, the issue with the neutrality allowance is that premiums are paid to workers in the judicial service, police service, etc. for staying out of politics. It is criminal to engage in politics as a civil servant. Why shouldn't the humble servant still or staff benefits same? He's asking.
Well, George, your face here. George, there's a texter there who says that you, as a journalist, deserve a political neutrality allowance.
No, he's talking about you and I.
Oh, George is a student. Okay, George.
I need some education. Maybe the rationale behind it is that there might be an instance where you could be caught with some money to switch your allegiance or be moving to side of political A or B. So that might not be given to you. The state is then giving you money to still stay neutral, right?
Yeah, I mean, we need to hear the rationale.
Yeah.
I mean, the NLC boss says he wasn't party to the agreement, but government agreed to stop paying them. So government owes them January, February, March, April.
Oh.
Well, March, April, yes. That's why they called the strike for tomorrow, a nationwide strike. Now government is locked up in an emergency meeting to try and resolve that and pay their arrears. The key question remains, so the thing is in the constitution that civil servants must remain politically neutral. Why are you paying them compensation for staying neutral, for observing what the constitution dictates? It's a question that we need to get clarity on.
Okay.
But 20% of your basic pay is a lot of money.
A lot of money.
George, how much would that be for you?
I didn't.
Because if you earn
I'm
2,000,
trying to do the
that's four.
calculation.
If you earn 2,000, that's 400. That's 400 cedis a month. In addition, that's 2,400. That's
George is
a
unable
lot.
to calculate off the top of
Yeah,
his
yeah,
head
he's struggling because he earns a lot.
Okay, so let me get you details in business because information, communication, manufacturing, and crops pushed growth rate for last year to 5.4%, and Bank of Ghana to clamp down on businesses pricing and quoting their services in foreign currencies. We're getting you more details on these stories. The business news on Newsnight is brought to you by MTN Business. Welcome to the new world of business. Kingdom Books and Stationery, your number one stop shop for all your office essentials, and Allianz Life. Let's now settle for the details. Significant activities in information, communication, manufacturing, and crop subsectors pushed economic growth for last year to some substantial levels. The Ghana Fiscal Service put the rate at 5.4%, and the last year. There is more in this report.
The information and communication subsectors grew by 52.3%, followed by water supply, sewage, and fishing. When it comes to the broad sectors, Agric led the pack, expanding by 8.2%, followed by the services sector with a growth rate of 8.1%. Industry, on the other hand, grew by 4.8%. The data released by the Ghana Statistical Service also showed some significant growth in the last quarter of last year, pegged at 7%. In terms of sectoral distribution of the economy, the services sector led the pack with 50% share of the economy. It was followed by industry with about 29% and agric 21%. This shows that the Ghanaian economy is still services-led. The 5.4% annual growth recorded puts Ghana ahead of some economies in Africa and even in developed countries.
And that is a business desk report. But the growth recorded showed that the economy has recovered from the shocks of COVID-19. Well, that's the question we posed to government statistician Professor Samuel Kobneni.
What we are seeing here is a growth rate of 9.4, 8.4 for the services and the agriculture sector. So again, you need to look at both the aggregated effect and the disaggregated effect. Once you are looking at the disaggregated effect, that is from the subsector perspective, we are seeing that these subsectors are recording rates higher than what we were recording before the COVID-19. So clearly from that subsector perspective, one can argue that we are seeing some recovery.
Professor Samuel Kobneni is government statistician. Now, Bank of Ghana has indicated that they will soon take effective measures to deal with persons and businesses that are quoting their services in foreign currencies. It follows a recent statement from the Bank of Ghana warning the public that it is illegal to price in foreign currencies in the country. Now, some have questioned the essence of the statement released by the bank. Speaking of the media after a public lecture on fraudulent schemes at the University of Ghana, Director of Financial Stability, Dr. Joseph France, said they also need the support from the public to enforce this.
It's you and I who patronize these products. The Bank of Ghana cannot be everywhere. So you get an institution pricing in dollars that is not authorized to price in dollars. All you need to do is to send information to us. And we have a lot more institutions sending. Yes, we go after institutions that are not supposed to price in dollars, who price in dollars. We go after them. We will not.
Dr. Joseph France is head of financial stability at the Bank of Ghana. Well, the Bank of Ghana has announced the appointment of economist Professor Ibu Texin as an external member of the Monetary Policy Committee of the Bank of Ghana. He replaces Professor John Kwachi, who is retiring from the committee. The African Development Bank has given a firm assurance that it has structures and measures in place to check the abuse of loans disbursed to member countries. Officials at the bank have been speaking today ahead of the headquarters, and that is in Abidjan, Ivory Coast, ahead of their annual meeting that will be held in Ghana.
There are mechanisms put in place. There are project evaluation mechanisms There are reporting mechanisms. There are project completion reports that have been done. And some of these projects these days are based on results, what they call the results-based financing, where projects are implemented based on the results that are shown by countries. So I know that many citizens are very skeptical about how monies are utilized in development projects, but you can be rest assured that the bank has put in place different stop points in terms of ensuring that monies that are borrowed are utilized for that purpose.
Professor Vincent Mele is the General Secretary of the African Development Bank, talking about the annual meetings that will be held in Accra, that is from next month, and what structures the bank is also putting in place to ensure that loans disbursed to member countries are used well. Now, about 3.5 million Ghanaians are yet to be connected to data and voice network. We have a network by the end of this year. It follows the quest by the Ministry of Communications to actually construct and connect some community ICT centers and cell sites across the country. Let's hear from the Minister of the sector.
Over 700 sites have already been built since 2020 November. Many communities have benefited and are connected as we speak. And by the end of next year, all these 2016 sites would have been completed and connected for some 3.5 million Ghanaians who are currently not connected to experience the wonders of digital technology. That's access. What about the safety bit of this year's theme? There are huge safety concerns, as Efua in her presentation and as Sami Battels also alluded to yesterday.
Minister for Communications and Digitalization, that is Eslo Suokofo, speaking at a program to climb as Girls in ICT program in Bono East Region under the theme Access and Safety. And that's all for business on Newsnight.
Thank you very much, George. Oreku, what do we have in sports?
Well, we've had a bit of a controversial story concerning the Ghana Premier League because we ran this story just a couple of weeks ago saying that Heart of Oak had filed a petition against referee Kenny Paddy for the match review panel concerning the penalty that he awarded Asante Kotoko in the Super Clash. Well, the decision came out today, and the match review panel say that they've suspended Joseph Kenny Paddy, who was the referee for that match, for the rest of the season. And it comes after they say that he awarded a dubious penalty to Asante Kotoko when a Hearts player, Nuruddin Abdul Aziz, won a 50-50 ball in the 18-yard box against Fabio Gama. Now, they claim that the referee still believed that his decision was right, but video evidence proved otherwise. And so that is the verdict, and that's how we'll be giving you the sports news today.
Okay, thank you very much, Oreku. A quick turnaround. Be right back.
The other day, I visited Kweku at his spunky new office to congratulate him on opening his business. And man, was I impressed. The business is just moving quick. The sales, customers, everything is just working seamlessly. The secret? He said,
it's MTN Business Broadband. In this fast-paced environment, we need fast and reliable internet to support all business types. No laggy online meetings, great download and upload speeds, impeccable business management systems, all inclusive. I mean, you can have it all.
Shout! I signed on immediately.
To enable your business stay ahead and stay connected, make sure you're signed on to the best internet made just for businesses. MTN Business Broadband. Sign up today on broadband.mtn.com.gh and manage your account on my MTN app. Call 0244-308-111 for more information. MTN.
Son, we are so proud of you for setting up this hospital. I really love those hospital beds and waiting chairs. By the way, did you import them?
No, Dad, I didn't. I actually got them from Kindle Books and Stationery right here in Ghana.
Wow. We also bought our office supplies, safes, executive desks, and chairs from Kingdom, and they gave us expert advice on how to set up our office.
Guys, that makes 3 of us. I also got our sofa and bedroom sets, plus our dining hall furniture for our new home from Kingdom.
Wow, Mom, that makes 4 of us. I usually get my stationery items from Kingdom, and my teacher also mentioned that our classroom furniture was provided by Kingdom.
So there you have it. Whenever you're thinking about setting up an office or acquiring furniture for your home, etc., Kingdom Books and Stationery should be your first point of call. With over 40 years experience in the industry, we stock and supply a wide variety of globally sourced office and home furniture, stationery, and equipment. Visit our head office, Osu Akwaje, or our office near the Osu Stadium. We're also in Tema, opposite Olam SHS, Kumasi KNUST campus, UCC Cape Coast, and now at the Marina Mall, Airport City. Or call us 0302 764101, 764209, or 762792. Visit our website www.kingdomgh.com.
Allianz, insurance since 1890. At Allianz Life Ghana, we have a wide range of life insurance packages to suit all pockets, from individuals, groups, associations, and businesses. We cover your employees, your funerals, pensions, children's education, and your future. Call us on 0302 267 892 or visit our website www.allianz-gh.com for more inquiries. Allianz Life, we secure your future.
Yet to unlimited calls. Oh, Vodafone Red. So you know here, Jack. Me too. No expiry of Vodafone Red. Yeah, star 200 hash. Huh? I bab the move. When you be what? Vodafone Red. No lie. Koko to me top man to you because I got a browser da. Vodafone Red. Star 200 hash. Assistem. See there. Yeah, Kasakono na your browser. Star 200 hash gives you unlimited calls on Vodafone to Vodafone. More data. More talk time to friends on other networks. No expiry. And the best value at affordable prices. Vodafone Ready, dear. Simply dial star 200 hash to choose a package that best suits you from as low as 1 Ghana cedi. Vodafone.
And the Strong and Sassy coming up next here on News Night, and they're talking about something very interesting. We want to stay with the girls, but a story that has been trending today, the revelation that KNUSC students, more than 6,000 of them possibly,
had to defer their courses. They've been forced to defer, and the revelation is that most of them are using their monies or their school fees to buy vehicles to operate Uber. Some of them are into baking, and then others are into betting. Betting comes top, we are told. That's what they're using their school fees for.
So 6,000 of them would now be defer. Find the money.
Yeah, because
and you asked the question on midday, if they're investing the money in betting or Uber, then they should bring the money to pay the school fees anyway. That's an interesting story. So myjoyonline.com, details of that, find it there. Joining me is a woman. I'm curious.
What I use my school fees
exactly the question I was going. Exactly the question I was coming to ask you.
I really wasn't paying it.
Oh, you?
Actually, a few times that my dad had to come and pay because I had
spent it on something else.
Kira V. Kira V and
that's in Kumasi.
Yeah, I went to Tech.
Oh, I think it's a Kumasi thing because
Lagos
people don't do
No, we don't do that.
Oh, Munfa, you both should do that.
So you will spend the money at chilling at Kira V.
Oh, you know how it is when you're young. You know, it's rare for that kind of money to come into your hands. You know.
Why your father made that mistake?
No, because and you know how you feel like you pay. You feel like okay, you calculate. So I'm removing some. Then my first chop money, I'll remove half and top up. Because, you know, you pay some at the beginning of the semester, then you pay before you write exams. So you pay the half, you chop the half, then you calculate that you will be removing from your chop money that's come. But every time the chop money comes, you already owe. You so then you never like pay.
You have to show it.
Yeah.
Oh, they were forging the receipt. They were bringing the receipt. Apawu. They were bringing the receipt.
Yes.
How do you get it?
Yes.
You bring the receipt. You the school. No, you went surface. There were businesses inside businesses. You understand? Yeah.
That's interesting. You know, since a kid, you face a kid and USC thing.
You can say that now.
No, I mean, I can say that. But I remember there was one time he was mad.
So he discovered, he found out.
Of course he discovered. And luckily he discovered a lot of these things after I had traveled. So then he called me one day shouting. I was like, yeah, you know, it's entrepreneurial. Learning how to manage money.
That's interesting.
So yeah, I think
thanks for the lessons. I'm not giving my money any school fees to my child to go and pay.
Yeah. Or you can actually make your child then work and pay. It's a learning. You know, this is how life.
No. Let's about pay your school fees.
You don't do tatata in this Ghana. That's why you don't understand this level. You don't. If you see
No, if we're doing the
Nigerian
papa
university
and
people
using
are
the
giving
you
only
know
more funds by
the
now.
returns to pay the fees, you say you
there's
don't
no
pay.
returns. The business that we are doing is not thriving.
That's a good one. What are you talking about on Strong and Sassy?
So we advertised that we were going to talk about something else, but you know, Rita Dominic got married over the weekend, and there's been a lot of conversations about it. So we're not actually going to talk about her wedding, but we're asking the question that how come there's so much noise when an older woman gets married? What is it about society that is something that either people are saying, you know, don't talk about it, or people are excited, or people are like, oh, we thank God, oh, this is a miracle. What is it? Because men are old and they get married every year. So as an older woman, 35, 36, gets married. And there's so many things. And also the obstacles that come as you get older in finding your partner. So we're talking age and marriage.
No, that's an interest. I have views on this, but I'll keep it to myself.
Yeah, I've heard some of your views.
Which one of them?
I cannot repeat them here.
I haven't expressed any view on
You
this.
have
matter.
expressed some views.
Really?
Yes.
To you?
No, of course not. It was Kokonsa.
Can we break it now and wait for Strong and Sassy? The
I
two of
think
you,
so.
the way you're going.
And then I'll catch you in the corner somewhere.
Yeah, I like the corner one. Anyone in my do and the girls up